Wesley Huff is lying about the book of Enoch, and I will explain everything. This is a concise breakdown of key points. First, Wesley Huff has repeatedly stated that the book of Enoch, or First Enoch, is a collection of fragments from the Dead Sea Scrolls in Aramaic, Coptic, and Greek that were put together. He intentionally omits that the Dead Sea Scroll fragments in Aramaic and Greek discovered in the 20th century and the 7th century Coptic fragments, which are not part of the scrolls, represent parts of a pre-existing text, not a compilation created from the scrolls themselves. First Enoch is a composite work believed to have been written circa 300 to 200 BC, consisting of distinct sections, and the complete text of First Enoch was only preserved in Ethiopic, or Ge'ez, the ancient Ethiopian Semitic language. The Qumran fragments are not a put-together collection assembled post-discovery. They are remnants of multiple copies of First Enoch used by the Qumran community, reflecting the importance of the text. Wesley says that if we read a published book of Enoch today, it's a compilation of these fragments, but that's a total lie. The English translations of the book of Enoch we have today are translations of the complete Ethiopic manuscript translated in 1821 and 1912, notably by August Dillman, Reverend Shawty, and Robert Henry Charles. This is because the Ethiopian Orthodox Church canonized and preserved the ancient text in its fullness in antiquity. Only fragments survived in Aramaic, Coptic, and Greek. Second, Wesley fabricated the lie that the Ethiopians included First Enoch in their Bible because missionaries from Syria showed up in the kingdom of Aksum with many books. And the Ethiopians canonized everything because they did not understand what inspired scripture and non-inspired texts were. This is a shameful lie that Wesley personally conjured up without any source to conveniently dismiss First Enoch as a false book that Africans included in their Bible because of ignorance. The proof of its falsehood is that Ethiopians possessed many Jewish and Christian religious texts that they did not include in their Bible from the early Christian era and that survived only in Ethiopic. This includes the Book of Adam and Eve, the Apocalypse of Peter, the Ethiopic Hexameron, and many other non-canonical Jewish and early Christian texts. The sole reason that the Book of Enoch and the Book of Jubilees were included was that they were considered inspired scripture by Second Temple era Jews, before the 24-book Hebrew Bible was canonized in the 2nd century AD, including the apostles and 1st century Christians. Ancient Israelite and Middle Eastern Jewish and Sabaean presence in Ethiopia dates to BC times, and Ethiopian exposure to biblical scripture dates to the pre-Christian era. First Enoch was included in the Ethiopian Bible because it was viewed as scripture during the Temple days, not because Syrian missionaries introduced the Bible to Ethiopians in the 4th century. Furthermore, the Epistle of Jude, a canonical New Testament text, directly quotes prophecy from the book of Enoch, 1 Enoch 1:9. Enoch, the seventh from Adam, prophesied about them. See, the Lord is coming with thousands upon thousands of his holy ones to judge everyone. This explicit citation proves that Jude viewed First Enoch as a prophetic authority, revealing its scriptural status among early Christians. Wesley argues that Enoch being quoted in scripture does not make it scripture, because Paul also quotes the pagan philosophers Epimenides and Menander, and those are evidently not scripture. This is a logical fallacy that he deliberately employs. Paul does not endorse Epimenides and Menander when quoting them, because his intent in doing so is to build bridges with a non-Jewish pagan audience. But on the contrary, Jude directly endorses First Enoch as divinely inspired prophetic scripture. He overtly reaffirms the quoted inspired prophecy in 1 Enoch 1:9. From a Christian position, this necessarily makes First Enoch an inspired scriptural text, because all prophecy quoted in Scripture is necessarily inspired. Lastly, the Ethiopian tradition is largely rooted in Temple Judaism. Much of its practices, including the preservation of sacred texts dating from before the complete divergence between Judaism and Christianity. The omission of Enoch in Christianity occurred and solidified centuries later, post-4th century. And there's no evidence that the first Christians rejected 1st Enoch, while there's evidence that they considered it to be inspired. The Church Fathers, namely in St. Athanasius' 39th Festal Letter, proposed a canon that left out Enoch over skepticism only. If we study the matter closely, Enoch wasn't left out in the same manner or for the same reasons that false books were rejected, such as the Gospel of Thomas, which was explicitly condemned by St. Cyril of Alexandria. Fathers like St. Jerome expressed skepticism due to a lack of universal acceptance, the main reason being concerns over its content regarding the Watchers, which some deemed inconsistent with orthodoxy if interpreted to be actual angels mating with human females. The rabbis, too, post Yavne, excluded the text along several others from the Jewish canon, but it occurred after the destruction of the temple, not during the temple era, and after the divergence between Judaism and Christianity. There was a divide between early fathers over Enoch's authenticity, and it was left out because of skepticism. It was not explicitly rejected because of being deemed a false text. Hence, treating 1st Enoch as a false text is a grave mistake. The Ethiopian inclusion precedes the later decision and conforms to early Jewish and apostolic Christian tradition.